What's going on? Hey, Kyle, tuning in here. You guys know the normal routine. Gonna be waiting a few moments here, starting a little bit earlier for those who are just joining in. Um, gonna be getting some good stuff going on here, and if you guys can hear the audio, that'd be much appreciated to let me know that everything's good to go. Gonna be talking about some 10 scale racing stuff, four-wheel drive stuff, bashing stuff, and 8 scale stuff. So for those who have any questions about whatever kind of racing that you're doing, whether it's 8 scale related, 10 scale related, please put your questions in the comments and kind of go from there. Obviously, I know what was posted and scheduled. I was supposed to start at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I had something kind of come up, so I started 30 minutes earlier so can get this done. So I'll kind of remind you guys throughout um, the video. If you guys can maybe, if someone wanted to watch this stream, share it if you can. That only helps my page out and your fellow racers that might have any questions regarding any of the team associated vehicles or J Concepts products or Hobby Wing products or anything that I particularly run. So should be waiting a few more moments here and get on our way. I'm sitting in a different spot than I typically do. I usually sit back there so you guys can see my PC setup. That's where I wrench is behind me, and this table is like setup area. But so we have Chris Pace in the house. I assume the audio is good. The people that are in joined, if the audio is good, please give me a thumbs up in the comments. Chris Pace in the house. We're going to the Wicked Weekend. I leave Wednesday, a couple days from now, for the Wicked Weekend, or it's a race time event Dave Lycum puts on. Actually, I got both my 8 scale cars prepped and ready, and I'm in the background. Actually, you can see it over there. I'm working on my truggy. So it looks like we're good to go. Like I said, if you guys can please share this on your page, it really helps my stream out, gets it out to as many of fellow racers as possible. Not only that, please give it a thumbs up. I'm also multi-streaming on YouTube and Facebook. So if I read questions or post questions up that you don't see on your end, it's because it's either on the YouTube or Facebook side, depending on what side you're on. So I have multiple streams going that goes both ways on my end, so I can see all the comments via Facebook and via YouTube. So looks like audio is good to go. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Starting this a little bit earlier than what was posted, but I have a lot of good information out. I went out in club race at Hobby Action. It's been quite some time. I got my B6.4 all built up. Got some kind of interesting setup stuff going on with my dirt car. I have been starting honestly the future development with sway bars. We've always kind of had the option to run sway bars on dirt. As you can see, I've been playing with them on my dirt car. I have my front sway bar on. So to be honest, I don't know exactly where we're gonna end up in the future with this, but to be honest, we've done a lot of testing on carpet stuff, and the sway bars on carpet just doesn't really feel much different if you pop it on or put it back on. It's just faster lap times, and I had a very very similar experience at Hobby Action. With my B6.4, I'm like, my normal baseline felt pretty good. And I'm like, I threw on the bars and my lap times just got a little bit quicker. So I think there's still some good testing to be done. It was actually my first experience out with the new car, so I did a lot of shock testing. I know there's been a lot of talk about, and wouldn't say freak out moments, but people were kind of really concerned about what shock package to start off with the 13 millimeter shocks. I did a lot of testing at Hobby Action, and let me just say, um, I know like some of our teammates, Dustin Evans and Aiden Horn, they've been doing a lot of three hole running. I know Dustin just got a pretty big win at the J Concepts INS in Omaha, so that was a really good win there for the B6.4 with Team Associated. So I did basically a very similar shock package. I with that he ran. I just did three hole 1.5s in the front, three hole 1.5s in the front, 32 weight, three hole 1.6s in the rear with 30. Dustin's actually running a little bit bigger holes in the front and a little bit bigger holes in the rear, so I didn't quite go nearly as far as he went. Just more of like an in between. And then I had another set of shocks that had my normal 1.6, 1.7 front piston with 30 weight. The rear piston's a two hole 1.7, and I drilled an additional hole to 1.1 with 27 weight. So the small little baby hole is not really for, it's really only for like high speed bumps and uneven surfaces. So it's such a small little addition to the shock package. So 3027. At some points, I'm still doing some further testing, so I don't have a complete setup sheet done yet. But if you guys do have any questions relating anything I just said to you, then just put in the comments. So after conclusion of both shock package, the kind of like the direction of where Dustin's going and where I'm at is pretty far different. Now, I don't think that that means that either of us are wrong. I actually really believe that since we run different tire brands, us being J Concepts with the clay compound and Dustin being the S3 style compound rubber, both compounds react so differently going around the track. In my opinion, the way the clay compound feels, it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit more efficient, and it's like more positive grip, where the S3s are a little bit tamer. They don't quite exactly have that positive grip feeling. They produce good grip, but the feedback that it gets into the tires through going around the track with the clay compound rubber in general, no matter if you run Proline, J Concepts, there's a lot more movement going on with the shocks because of the positive grip. Now, with his tires, there's a lot less positive feedback with the shocks. So he's actually having to manually make the shocks work more to have that feedback, which is him getting the same feeling that I think that we get with just by changing the tires. So it's a little bit confusing, and maybe people in the comments if that made a little bit of sense. And I know I have a bunch of different genres of topics that I'm going to be talking about, but at the moment I'm talking about 10 skill stuff. So for those who are running 10 skill, this um, should help a ton with the shock package, the 13 millimeter shocks, and so forth. So again, I'm just running like my standard, really two hole stuff. The additional one extra hole in the rear for the shock package. So I'm running the kit pistons, so I guess they're considered thin. We did all the testing, to be quite honest with you. We have it as an option. I don't think you need at all the thick pistons with a 13 millimeter um, bodies. So depending on how many holes you run, now if for instance, I guess this just actually popped up in my head. The way Dustin runs his shocks, he runs it with a thin piston, and maybe with the J Concepts tires or the clay compound guys that run the clay compound rubber, the thick piston with the big 3 holes could be something to try. But for sure, with the standard thin piston 3-hole package that Dustin's been running, if you do run clay compound rubber, I definitely think that that's not a good combo package. From the testing that I've seen at Hobby Action for some of my local guys, and with my personal experience now, when we first did the original testing at Hobby Action late last year, or yeah, sometime last year, it was this very similar shock package to what we ran with our 12 millimeter shocks, give or take the lighter oil. Then I was like, this is substantially better with just the same comparison. So I see we had some questions coming in. Scott Spear, he's a local hobby action racer. He's asking which bar thicknesses that I'm running on my 2-wheel drive. Great question. I have the 1.0 front bar and 1.2 rear bar. I know further testing, I don't know exactly, and it's kind of sad to see or hear that one of our engineers was running 0.8 front bar, and I don't even know if we make that. I want to say we do. I'm checking right now for you guys. So I just threw it on from my carpet car just to see where it was at, and I was pretty happy with how things were going. So I'm going through the parts and accessories at the moment, checking the sway bar options. I'm pretty sure we do make the lighter one. I think the 1.0 might be the thickest one we make. So I'm going through. So yes, we do make a 0.8 front bar. I can put in the comments B6 front bar. Part number 91820. So, yeah, on my car, I have the 1.2 rear bar, 1.0 front bar. So yeah, great question for those who are asking about the 17.5 and mod. Obviously, I run mod. This setup stuff has a fair comparison across the board for all classes, 21.5, 17.5. Obviously, there are some differences with the speeds that the cars are going into the corner with. There's going to be some give or take with the maybe some oil related or roll centers. So I know from what we've been seeing, is the roll centers. I've been running my roll center in the rear. So I run the 75 millimeter arm, the long arm. I have the narrow pivot. So it's middle row 1 in on the D and middle row all the way in and up on the C. So narrow pivot, middle height, but the C mount is up for 2-degree anti-squat. Seems like for whatever reason at my track, the more anti-squat was definitely more preferred. So it looks like Dave also added some some part numbers for the front bar. Although that's a different part number than the one that I have, but must be the same one. Actually, maybe I put the wrong one. Let me refix that. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Dave, for hooking us up there. So, um, I'm like multitasking on my phone and my computer. So, thanks for having my back there. Yeah. So, for you guys that are out there running some 10 skill stuff, I would just maybe try it and just see where it ends up. To be quite honest with you, as far as development stuff goes for the two-wheel drive, I think this is really the next step. I don't really know why it hasn't happened yet. I know Kinwald, when he was around, he always had sway bars on his two-wheel drive, and every time I drove his car, it was always really good and just I didn't nearly have to drive it nearly as hard to go fast. But if everyone doesn't run it, then no one runs it. So if as soon as we get some of the right people to kind of stick with it, it's going to become a more regular thing. Um, and I think it's good for the hobby. I think it's something that we can all tune with if it's really better. But the kind of grip it levels that we've been running at these big races, especially like the nationals or I ran it at the club race at Hobby Action, which it's good grip, but it's nowhere near the grip at like a bigger event. And if the more grip, the more it's just going to help. So, yeah, this is my full setup. I have the long chassis, which I have some more information about that. Um, if the long chassis is the way to go versus the short chassis, we had this discussion with my buddy Adam Peters. He wanted to know what chassis is the best to run, and it's really difficult for me to say a right answer. I do know that talking to some of the engineers at the shop, when running the short chassis, the short chassis, the motor is actually closer to the front tires, which means there's more front weight bias. So when I drive the long chassis car, there's more rear weight bias, which means the car can kind of overload the tires, especially if the grip is up. And that was what my car was doing at Hobby Action. So some of the best things that I did with the long chassis is I ran my battery actually all the way forward, which is this all the way new forward setting is one step further from the B6 point 3 car. So utilizing a new battery package setup. I've also been running my mod car a little bit lighter than traditional. I have a 4800 milliamp battery with no weight. So my package of the car is a little bit lighter. The other thing that I noticed with the long chassis is running my hubs all the way back. So technically making it longer. But when you do that, it not only does it make it longer, which wasn't exactly what I was going for. It was really just from the testing that Kurt's done with the associated stuff. He really notices a much bigger difference when you move the wheelbase front to back. If you push it back, it actually takes less weight off the rear tires and puts it to the front tires, which is acting like a short chassis style, putting more weight bias to the front. Um, so I actually ran my hubs all the way back, and I actually flipped the hubs. So the left side went on the right and the right side went on the left because the Team Associated B6 hubs, they're offset. So they're actually kind of directional. So flipping the hubs made it extra further back, which helped with the same problem, taking weight off the rear tires. So definitely with the long chassis, it for sure has a lot more weight on the rear tires. And the reason why I flipped the hubs is because I left the arms shimmed forward for shorter wheelbase, But the reason why I don't shim the inner arm is because the shock's actually connected to it. So it actually puts the shock at a much like different angle than I wanted. I wanted to keep the shock angle. So if you push the arms back, you can always unscrew the set screw and put like a 2 millimeter shim behind the shock to make the shock more straight. But with the arms forward, it keeps the shock at the same spot, and it was just easy enough to change the hubs. Yeah, so Scott's been so Scott Spear, he runs a hobby action all the time, probably most out of anybody, and he's running the short chassis with arms back. So long, he's running longer wheelbase, but he's also running it's even more weight bias to the front. So yeah, there's definitely yeah, Drew, I appreciate you noticing that. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. um there's just a lot of different combo packages that I'm finding. The one thing that I will say I've learned a little bit with some of the 8 scale stuff for the 10 scale is the car pitch. So when you run a shorter car in general, the car will kind of pitch more left and right, side to side, back to back. Um, and I noticed when I ran my car at Hobby Action with the long chassis, and I was shimming the wheelbase and everything like that, the car just stayed like completely one step around the whole track, especially with like the sway bars. And I think that is kind of the way to go, to be quite honest, especially when the grip's really high. Now, for those who are just getting into the hobby, they don't really know what they're doing, they want the most traction. I do think the short chassis has some of that initial grip feeling, but at like hobby action, it's super sensitive the way hobby action's dirt is to overloading the tires, especially the rear tires. If you get a car that collapses the rear end really quickly into the corner, the tire it will just like skid and like jack on you. And I was going for more of an efficient way around the track, not so much pitching, and the um the grip level I thought was stayed consistent when driving the car. So we have some good questions coming in. Um, Clay Keats is in the house. I appreciate you tuning in, Clay. So for those who are tuning in, obviously I started my live video 30 minutes earlier. I had someone that come up that I'm going to be doing at 9. I have to attend. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. We were just talking about all the B6 stuff that I was testing, the shock package. So if you guys have any questions about that stuff, I know we have a lot more people tuning in right now. But we do have some questions coming in here. So Dave's asking 73 or 75 millimeter arms with long chassis. So great question. I know I've been running the long arm with my car, which talking to Kurt, which is kind of like running a little bit of a higher roll center. But Billy Hayden, one of our engineers at Associated, he's been doing some more testing and development with sway bars on his car at SDRC, and he's running 73 millimeter arms, which I definitely want to try 73 millimeter arms with the sway bars. I will say this, without the sway bars, I definitely think the 75 millimeter arms just carry more corner speed. It's especially for when the grip is up. But in this scenario, 73 millimeter arms is like running a little bit lower roll center, which I kind of think the sway bar package needs a little bit lower roll center. So I'm curious to see how that really changes the sway bar package setup. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that answers your questions, Dave. So good question. On lower grip tracks, would you be running long chassis? Uh, Probably not. I don't really know what low grip is to you. Um, I don't know if that means outdoor ungroomed, but yeah, if it's a loose grip, you're not running slicks, then I would say short chassis for sure. Chris Van Air in the house. What's up, buddy? Long time no see. Hope that you and the family is doing good. So I think you must have missed a little bit of the 3-hole, 2-hole shock package. For those who are just tuning now, I'm going to say it one more time just to clarify everything. I did a lot of the shock testing this past week or last week at Hobby Action. When we did our original testing with the 13 millimeter shock package, I preferred just the 2-hole package. And what I've been finding is I actually ran the 3-hole shock package the whole day at Hobby Action and then put on my normal baseline shocks. I was running 3-hole 1.6s in the rear, 3-hole 1.5s in the front, 32-30. And I thought it felt all right going around. And then until I put my standard 1.6, 1.7 front shock package with 30 weight, and then the 2-hole 1.7s, and I drilled an additional 1.1 millimeter hole in the rear. So it's technically a 3-hole rear piston, but it's really for just the high speed pack that's changing with that package. So it's more like a 2-hole style, but like a hybrid, I guess you can say. And it was basically a no brainer. Like the 2-hole style package pistons is the way to go for for me. And I believe it has everything to do with the tire setup package that you're running. So Dustin has been running 3-hole shock package, an even bigger hole package than what I just explained. And he said that that's his by far the favorite. And he was comparing it against his 12 millimeter thin piston package. And what the clues are all pointing towards is that it's all tire related. I really believe that the J Concepts silvers or the clay compound, whether it's Perlon clay, J Concepts clay compound, and maybe AKA clay compound, the tire feedback grip to the car suspension is so much more positive that you need some pack to slow it down. And with the like soft rubber, like the S3 compound or maybe even the AKA soft longwear, um, the grip is not it's not the same style grip. It's more of like a negative grip style where I think both make good grip. And when I say negative and positive, it's not that I'm talking about the feedback. The car works differently. With the Proline S3s, it's a little bit number and it doesn't quite uses a lot of the suspension. Where like the natural rubber, like the clay compound style tires, it's using a lot of it. So both, I wouldn't say one is right or one's wrong. It's just the cars are set up so differently, which in previous videos that I've done with you guys, I've said before the setups are different. They're 100% different. So if you run Proline, then I for sure think that the AKA or Proline, you know, those guys run like the soft rubber, non-clay compound, and then the J Concepts guys run clay. So it definitely reacts differently on the track. So I definitely think like Dustin and those guys are on the right path for the way their tires are working. And then I think for the guys that run clay compound, the 2-hole style package is kind of um, a great baseline to start with. So that was basically the shock analysis that I found. Doo, doo, doo. Yeah, so Yeah, for loose tracks, you definitely want to make your shock softer because if there's not much grip, that means the tire is not rolling nearly as much and loading the tire. So softening the dampening and softening the spring is typically your go-to. Um, so another clue with the sway bars that I kind of forgot to mention, I actually went down one step in spring, so I'm running white springs all the way around instead of gray. Um, that was basically one of the findings that I had with the sway bar package. So, question about the four-wheel drive. So, I actually not familiar. I actually just built my B74.1, brand new car. Um, this is actually my Nationals car, so it's just the B74.1. I added like the stiffeners, carbon Protect side rails. I am running the 13 millimeter shocks. I'm going to be running 2-hole 1.6s in the front and 2-hole 1.8s in the back as my starting point. So I'm not really sure what B74 kit you're talking about, but maybe you guys know something that I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we're always working on stuff, and yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate you tuning in. Always appreciate having you guys on board. So this is a good question coming in. I might have missed it, but the new B6.4D springs, what is the rate difference between the old V1 and V2 springs? I haven't seen green fronts available. So I'm not sure what the difference is. I do know that the colors are very similar. So um, the V1 spring style versus the point 4 springs, the color codes are very similar rates. So um, I did a little bit of testing at Hobby Action without sway bars. I kind of was like, I was running gray rear spring, and then I went to a blue, and blue was a pretty big jump. Blue is what I run on carpet. So gray was like, that's like borderline. Chris, I don't think they have a short course class this year, so I'm going to be running stadium truck. Good question. And have you been tried any of the carbon parts on two-wheel drive? So great question. I been doing a little bit of testing with it on carpet. The last couple of carpet times that I went out. Currently on my dirt car, I have 0 carbon parts on, but I plan on trying the steering blocks and caster blocks and potentially the top deck. There's a couple of different combos that I want to try. I might want to try the carbon side rails first. I kind of have to go through and see exactly what I want to do. So also, guys, for those who are just tuning in, I started my live stream a little bit earlier at 7:30, so I'm going to be ending it around 8:30-ish. Just kind of letting you guys know. So if you have any questions that you wanted to get in, put in the comments. So go through it towards the end, and hopefully, guys answer your questions. So we're already talking about a bunch of the B6.4 stuff and the new settings that I've been running and testing for future development. So I'm pretty pumped with that. Got the J Concept new F2 body. I've been building my new or another new B74.1 car for the Nationals at SDRC. So been building a bunch of cars. So Another thing that before we go off into the 8 skill talk, I actually Associated hooked me up. No, this is my B74.1. This is my brand new kit that I'm building for the Nationals, Larry. So no new 4-wheel drive kit. So do I recommend using the front top deck? I actually been playing with it a bunch on carpet. Haven't ran it ever on carpet or ever period, and it was really good. So I put it on my dirt car just to start off with, and it's something that I'm going to be testing back and forth. I know through like chicanes and high grip sections, this was much more preferred on carpet. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it feels on dirt. So this is a B74.1. You guys keep on asking about a new 4-wheel drive. There's nothing new. We just got another shipment in of these cars. So I am running that one at the Nationals. So this is a good question here. On high grip, what would you suggest to help stop a sudden violent traction roll? I've tried a few diff settings, but curious on what you would say to help. This is a great question. If you can give me a little bit more clues on what tires you're running. Are they clay compound? Are they S3s? And ride height. I know for sure if you're running 4-wheel drive, I would run 16 millimeter ride height, and I would also be running the J Concepts sidewall tire band, which I don't know if I have any right here, but yeah, these are the tire bands that go. I have a YouTube video that J Concepts did. What do you guys see again? This is like a game changer. It's another extra step, unfortunately, that you have to do for the tires, but it's racing. You got to maximize whatever you can do. So I would also check out the chassis stiffeners. I know for sure stiffening up the side rail, the center side guards, or the center splines. Sorry. I'm running like the 2 millimeter ones, carbon, which I know the kit comes with like the G10. So if you stiffen it up, I know it helps with stability and stuff like that. Also, to the ride height is really important. 16 millimeters. You can try raising the dips to +1 all the way around to see if that helps. That would be like start off there and see what happens. So I wanted to show you guys. I just got this in the mail yesterday. Me and Jackson played with it a bunch yesterday. I've never had so much fun with an RTR car in my life, and I've gotten like the 4x4 short course that which was like a 2-cell. This is a 4-cell. This is an RTR, like ready to run. It comes with like all their electronics and like a battery. I wasn't really trying to like sell you guys on anything, but I oddly had like some of the best time driving this thing. It like doesn't flip over. It does wheelies everywhere, and like the tires are so big and hard, like you can like drift it around. The only thing I can say is that was really cool. It came with like a steel servo horn, which won't break, but the servo is a little bit slow, so I'm probably just gonna ride it out until it breaks, and or if it breaks. and then put like an 8 scale servo in. But plenty of power. Pretty fun to take to the track and play around with it in the parking lot. It's the MT8 scale. It's got like the wheelie bar in the back. So to me, this is the best RTR car I think Associated sells for like a bashing vehicle. I had the short course I thought was pretty cool, especially for like kids and stuff. It's like the perfect speed, but this thing is fast. It wheelies everywhere. It's freaking durable. As you can see, I like took some serious body damage. It's got like these skid plates on top, so it doesn't really scratch the body. It's got like mega suspension, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, MT8, you should check it out. RTR, I was pretty stoked on it. Not to mention, it was only 105 degrees out, and we ran it for like 20 minutes, and it just kept on running. It came with like this 4,000 wolf pack, so yeah, you can get multiple batteries. Yeah, that the MT8, I'm pretty stoked. I can't wait to take that to like hobby auction, play with it in the parking lot. So anyhow, on to the next topic. We talked about a bunch of 10 skill stuff. Hoping to get some more information out the next time I come back. I actually leave Wednesday to go to Wicked Weekend, and I'm going to have gonna be there for the Wicked Weekend. Come back Monday. Looking forward to getting back and running at hobby action again. I've been running a little bit. I ran my first club race in a long time at hobby action. Did a bunch of the 10 scale testing for the 2-wheel drive. So there's still some more testing development for the 4-wheel drive shocks package, which I think are going to be pretty close to where they're at now. But as far as 8 scale related goes, I'm going to go grab my 8 scale buggy and kind of talk about like the latest testing and stuff that I have there. So I'll be right back. Actually, my car is already here. So this is my practice car. My other car is already packed. So I know the last time we talked about some 8 scale stuff, we we're doing a bunch of like changes to like the rear bar and hub, like the wheelbase and hub height. I wrote down some notes here for the next time I go out. There's a couple things that's a little unfortunate at the moment, and I'm hoping I can kind of nail it down for the guys back at the shop, so maybe we can re-release some stuff. But the newest findings on some consistency, grip, all around comfort is some of the chassis flex stuff. I'm not really sure how much information that I'm probably allowed to give out, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The rear chassis brace, I've been finding that it's not quite stiff enough with the way it's just kind of stock. So I've been running like this side plate with the 2 screws. I've been running this. It's discontinued now, which is what I was talking about. It's called like the RC8 B3 rigid motor mount. So it's still the two pieces, which helps a lot of some of the rear flex in the car. Let me see. You can't really see it, but like I'm bending the wing, but where the chassis actually kind of all the 8 scale chassis seem to kind of bend a little bit. They call it like the bowing. It seems like it happens like right here in this area, like right where the motor mount is. Or actually, sorry, the back motor mount. Um, and what I did was I made a small little 1.6 millimeter shim to go underneath the rear chassis brace. It's not underneath it right now because I only made one. It's a carbon shim that I made actually out of like the ESC carbon weight plate for the B6. So it's still in further testing. I just wanted to let you guys hear the information and see what you guys want to do with it. I found that not only, well, let me just backpedal a little bit. Traditionally, I've always actually, like this screw right here, I've always drilled out to make it a little bit bigger than like the tap size. So the screw kind of just goes in nicely and like the bar, like the brace will just like free drop. And when you do that, you make the hole like that much bigger and it actually moves a lot in the hole. So we found some information back at the shop. We utilized it at the Visions race and was doing some testing. And when you do testing at a race, it's always a little bit of a disaster, especially when you're trying to get a good result, but also try to figure out some things, some data. And by just like putting on a box stock brace and just screwing it in, tightening the nut, bolting it to the chassis. I'm using bolt screws for the chassis brace right here. And then I actually then like tighten the nut and screw like all the way tight. So then once it's on the chassis, it's like at its 0 point, and then you tighten it, and then it's like locked, or as locked as it could be. So that was a huge difference, and the differences that I found was the rear end completely started to utilize the shocks so much more as it planted the rear tires better. It helped jumping and landing consistency. And I thought throughout the run, as like you going through sections, it always felt predictable, like it was going to do the same thing. Where before, I was always like, it's pretty good, but every now and then it just like breaks loose or it doesn't land very good or whatever. So that's just the box stock stuff. The additional testing that I did was adding the shim, which is what I was talking about earlier. And that actually, again, made another step in the right direction, in my opinion. So when you do that, add the shim underneath here, which I made it out of like an ESC carbon weight plate. So you have to like, line it up, cut it, drill new holes. And what that does is it actually so it lifts this up, but it also puts more pressure on this part. So, like I said earlier, the chassis normally in the back bends up like a banana. And when you put the shim down underneath it, it kind of brings back the bend and kind of flattens it a little bit. So it just puts a little bit more pressure on the point, like a constant pressure here and here. Where I think before the chassis brace just like laid there and just was there. So there are some more things going on behind the scenes that we're trying to figure out. I think for sure the way the car comes, you for sure should run the side brace, the 2 screws, and definitely don't drill or tap out the top screw. And then when you put it on the car, make sure it's tight all the way, and that's a huge help. So, um, that's been the biggest findings that I've been noticing, which I've been really happy about. Um, I have some questions in here. I saw Chris Raymond was asking, "Are you going to make it out for testing before nationals?" Chris, I would love to, but I am just been so busy. I leave for Wicked Weekend on Wednesday, and I have like 2 weeks off, which I'm going to be club racing and hobby action a couple times a week before the Nats, and I'll just we'll basically just be there for the nationals. So I saw you guys had the warm up race. Saw the boys did really good. So I'm sure the track will be dialed. But yeah, I was looking forward to maybe doing something, but the schedule it's been so busy. So Jeff, that is a good question. Um, it is something that we've discussed. I mean, I would like to see maybe a couple things, maybe out of like the carbon material, which would be a little bit stiffer. But ultimately, I think it'd be nice if maybe the brace was a little bit longer. But I mean, this is all stuff that won't probably change anytime soon. I would say aluminum would probably be too heavy and it could possibly bend. Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of things that that we're just figuring out now, and we're utilizing some of the benefits from this. But anyways, that was the big finding at the Visions event with the chassis flex and the motor mount. So the other thing that I've been running recently that's been really interesting is the tall wing mount. So it's weird. Years and years and years ago, we would on the B3, we were always running the low wing mount. And Richard wanted to try the tall wing mount because he saw it was like a little bit lower than some of the other vehicles on the market at that time. And he's like, I don't know what it did, but really felt like when I flipped over, the tall wing mount helped my car flip back over on its wheels. And that was like the running joke for a while. Um, so we're running the low wing mount position on the B4 is actually the tall wing mount on the B3. And then we have another setting that's even taller, which I'm running the even taller setting, but I'm not running the two plates underneath the wing. So it just brings it down just a little bit. That's kind of like how I'm running it. So it's still much taller than normal. So definitely give that a try. The other thing that we've been doing with the 8 scale stuff is the wheelbase and some of the droop settings that I've recently discovered. I'm starting to check my droop settings on blocks, which some of the like Hot Bodies guys and the Mugen guys and even maybe the S-Works guys use the droop blocks for their 8 scale car and not measure it with the calipers. It's a little bit more of a process, but it's substantially more accurate. So I have 30mm droop blocks. I know the other guys use 36s because it has like a pre-built conversion because the hex is the 12mm thread hex and half of that's 6. So when they check it on their 36mm blocks, if it's at 30 underneath with the ride height gauge, it's considered even. And then if you're at 24 or 26 millimeters of rear droop with the blocks, that's 4 millimeters below the chassis. So it's a little bit confusing, and I'm probably going to be doing a video on it a little bit. But like the droop numbers from the shock if you wanted to just get a quick estimate. The new droop numbers that I'm running is 105.5 in the front and 126 millimeters in the back with hubs down, which I've never ran that much droop ever. And I went out to Fear Farm and ran, and it was like one of the best 8-scale cars I've ever driven. So I also have universals in my car, which in years past, some of the bad things about the universals, it never really popped off jumps very good, and it also like didn't have much rear support. But some of the findings that I'm finding with the rear chassis brace helping to plant the rear tires, and also adding the droop for suspension travel, it has more support, and it has better jumping ability and landing ability, which those are all things that the universals didn't really do better. But the plushness that you get and the consistency going around the track on the imperfections of the track, I thought was really good. So for those who haven't maybe seen my latest YouTube video, it's posted on my Facebook and on my YouTube channel. You can kind of see the track that I was running at. This is the car that I ran. I just took some of the things out of my car to put in my race car and prepped and ready. So yeah, I'm running the hubs down position, down and in on the tower. There was a couple of things that I was finding with the super short link setup, but when the grip gets to a certain point, the super short links, in my opinion, don't become a benefit. So if you run on medium to medium high grip, like I think Wicked Weekend will be in that category. The super short links, it's going to be too hard to drive. And that was something that kind of really hurt me at Silver State. I thought earlier on in practice and qualifying, it was like manageable and really consistent. But when they became the mains, like the end of the straightaway, like it just became really sensitive on the wheel and it was very hard to drive. So if you're looking for that extra comfort, the universals, hubs down, link down, inside down on the tower. I also flipped my sway bar link. I only did that because it was such a pain in the butt to work on the car with the sway bar link, and flipping it and running it flush is like pretty close to up and down links, and it just made it so much better to drive. So yeah, other than that, that was basically the majority of the 8-scale testing that I did. I am running 6-hole shock package settings. I can post in the comments what exactly was the package. So they were just the AE. The AE, I have the part number somewhere. So yeah, they weren't the tapered ones, but it was like the factory team flat 6-hole pistons. Flat. Front was, yep, Adam. It's got the part number. Thank you, sir. So I was running in like 90-ish degree weather. So I posted in the comments of what I ran for the shock package for the 6 holes. But anyways, we had a good time at the Visions event. Brandon from Liversea had a really good opportunity to use for the Mab TV stuff. So we did a bunch of good filming stuff. There was a bunch of drama towards the end, which we're not going to really get into. But the track was pretty cool. It was a little bit small, but knowing the owner of that property and what they have envisioned for, I'm sure next year is just going to be absolutely incredible. Another step better than what it was. The first year is always just trying to do it right and figure out the what we need to do. And I think they kind of have a good idea of what they want to do, and it was good. Um, so we'll see how that plans out. I know they were talking about maybe potentially doing it in a series, multiple of those kind of events. So we'll see how that kind of translates. But overall, I think I had a good time. I had unfortunately, in one of the mains, tire completely come off the rim. I wasn't able to finish very good at all, and kind of probably put me out of contention for a podium spot. But um, yeah, I had a good time. It was fun only racing one class. It was a little bit easier. It was hot and humid there, which was not ideal, but it's always fun to race with the boys and have some fun. So, but anyways, guys, I'm gonna be wrapping things up here. Next week's Wicked Weekend for me. If you have any questions about this live video, please don't forget to like and share. It really puts it out to your fellow racers. It helps them answer some questions with the B6.4, the B74.1, latest and greatest setups for those cars, and some updates on the 8-scale running. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and hopefully you guys have a good week, a good Monday. And if you guys are going to Wicked, I'll see you there. So signing off. Peace out, guys.